which is Georgia. We just talked about Kirby Smart trying to flip Diabell from Texas. So Georgia actually offered Diabell on January 17th. Mike Bobo made an in-person, in-house visit to Diabell and Rajabell, obviously NBA player, who that's his son. And Mike Bobo skipped his own son's football banquet to go make this visit and offer. So I think that tells you a little bit of what they believe for Diabell and what they're trying to get from Diabell. Diabell is the number 14th player nationally, number 4 quarterback, according to 247 Composite. Gerald, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's always scary, right? It is what it is. Like when Georgia is coming for your quarterback, when a team like Georgia, like back when it was with Nick Saban in Alabama, right? You just kind of, grab the edge of your seat and try to hold on for dear life. But what I always say when these things come up is like, if you're going to want to swim with the big fish, then you've got to be in for a fight, right? If you want to run with big dogs, you got to be in for a dog fight. And that's what this is going to be, right? If Texas is going to be recruiting at this elite level, they're going to be recruiting the top players in the country. You're going to have to sweat out some of these recruitments. You're going to have to deal with Kirby Smart coming into offer, or Kalen DeBoer at Alabama coming to offer, or Oregon coming to offer, and Uncle Phil trying to drop a check. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Like those are the things that you have to be cognizant of and be okay with, right? If this is something that you cannot deal with as a Texas fan, stop following recruiting. Like that's all I could say. Like it just is what it is. That's what it's going to be moving forward. If Texas is going to be nationally relevant and dropping these classes that can compete for national championships, then we're going to be in this position year in and year out.
No, and this is time to say, don't freak out when we're ranked 30th in June. I don't care about June. I said this last year. I released a video. Everyone was freaking out because I think we were like 31st or something in June or July. And even Sark was asked the question, and he said, it's June. I don't care about recruiting in June. And when that was going on, I said, listen, calm down. We're still going to land like a top 5 to 7 class. So I wasn't even as optimistic as what it turned out to be. We ended up with the number 1 class in the country. So calm down. I think we only have 3 commits right now for this class. So we'll be fine, even if he does flip, but he's a really good player. Remember guys, he did end his junior year with an injury. So that's something to keep an eye out on. It seemed like it could have been a catastrophic injury. So we avoided that. So that's a really good thing. And also, you got to remember, his dad was a professional athlete, and they handle things a certain way. And I think I think those guys are going to stay more locked in. You saw that with Arch Manning. As soon as he committed, he was more locked in. You saw that with Santana Wilson. As soon as he was committed, more locked in. Diabell is still currently committed to Texas, and he is also currently recruiting for Texas. If you go to his Twitter page, he's out there saying, hey, come to Texas, hook him, come to Texas, hook him. He's doing that with all these recruits. So I don't think there's anything to be worried about right now. Like you said, is Georgia going to bring it on? Is LSU is another name to watch going to bring it on? Is Miami, especially with the money they have, going to bring it on? But guess what I don't care about as much in this recruitment? It's not going to be as much NIL, guys. This guy's dad played in the NBA. He's got a lot of money. He doesn't come from a background of where, hey, I need to go to the best place with the biggest offer. No, he wants to go to the best place with the best development, period. And I think the pitch right now, like the only team that scares me in that, if that's the pitch, is LSU. Because if Nussmeier has a fantastic year and is drafted as like a top 5 pick, Jane Daniels, Nussmeier, back-to-back is a really strong look for LSU. Georgia doesn't have anything like that. Miami doesn't have anything like that unless Cam Ward goes number 1. But then you could say, hey, he was a transfer, and before that, they had nobody. So really, LSU is the only one, in my opinion, that scares me. I don't think he goes to Georgia. I think it's definitely scary because of who Georgia is and the way they recruit. But honestly, if I'm looking at it, I think LSU is the bigger competition here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that like Texas could also make that same argument. If Quinn Ewers gets drafted decently and Arch Manning has a good year, that's a Sark feather in his cap. So again, it's big and scary when Georgia comes for you. It's absolutely terrifying. I think the in-state schools are the ones to watch. I think LSU is the one to watch. But again, like I said before, this is what recruiting with the big dogs is. This is what getting number 1 classes looks like. This is the stuff that you have to sweat out if you're going to follow recruiting at this high level. It's something to just keep in your back pocket. And I think Texas has options. I think Texas, the quarterback room, it would suck to not have Diabell in there, but I think Texas and Sark will be in a fine position. They may have to go into the portal and get a year or two rental if that's how it works out. But again, there's also you got Bo Beck, I think his name, or Bo Bentley from Salina right down the road. It's like you could probably try to get in on him. He's a top 250 guy. It's like there's some options there as well if the Diabell thing does go sideways. I don't think it's going to, but if it does, I think there's some options.
No, I don't think it's going to either. My thing is this: he came to Texas Junior Day when he could have come to go on to other places because he's already been to Texas multiple times. He chose to go to Texas and then also helped recruit that weekend at Texas. So, until stuff like that stops happening, he's going to be at Texas, and until he visits Athens, he has yet to do that. I'm not really worried about it. But if you were to flip, I have 3 names written down. I want to know a couple names. You just named one there in Bo Bentley. Number 1 for me there would be Jared Curtis. He's like the number 2 national player according to 247 composite, number 1 quarterback. We have offered him. He's from Tennessee, 6'4", 225, big, strong pocket passing guy, fits the mold of what Steve Sarkisian wants. So he would be the number 1 guy for me to look out for. Right now, it's funny. Georgia is the most talked about place for him. So that's another thing too. If he goes to Georgia, Diabell's not going to go to Georgia if Jared Curtis goes to Georgia. I'm going to let people know that right now.
And it may be, and you see this sometimes in recruiting, it may be a squeeze tactic to get their quarterback on the board because at this point, not having your 2026 quarterback lined up is not a great thing. You want to have your quarterback as the first couple off the board. And so Georgia not having a quarterback on the board, you see it where teams will bring a couple of quarterbacks in for a visit, hoping to squeeze one of them into a commit, or they'll start to put pressure on another quarterback. I think part of it is because Georgia needs Jared Curtis to kind of go or get off the pot, for lack of a better term. They need somebody to jump in the boat and get that class going. And obviously, Georgia's going to recruit fine, but you need a quarterback, you need a bell cow, you need a signal caller in the class. So I wonder if there's some of that at play as well.
Leo, I have not seen you in the chat, so we appreciate you being here. Please like and subscribe. Also, what you said gave me a little bit of chuckle, honestly, because Kirby would let Bell warm the bench for a few years because he's a 5-star QB. Yeah, he does tend to do that. He's weird with quarterbacks where you saw that with Jacob Eason, Jake Fromm, and then Justin Fields. He chose Jake Fromm, who was by far the least talented of the 3. Justin Fields transfers, and then Jacob Eason transfers, and all of them go to the NFL, and Jake Fromm has by far the worst career of all 3 of them in the NFL, and he wasn't very good at Georgia's last couple of years. So that it was pretty funny how the way he does handle his quarterbacks. And then he went with Stetson Bennett over JT Daniels, which did work out, but it was definitely questioned at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the JT Daniels thing, I think, proves him right in retrospect, but still a weird decision.
Yeah. Number 2 for me, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. It's Jake, I believe, Fetty. He's a top 10 quarterback in the country right now. He's the number 9 quarterback. He's from Texas. He's from El Paso. This is the only thing that worries me. He's not really a Sark body type guy wise. 6 foot, 190 pounds. He's committed to Arizona State currently. So he's a little bit more mobile of a guy, not super big, not super strong, but he's accurate. And I think he can be a decent quarterback. We'll see. And especially, he's young still. He still grow an inch or two. So we'll see how that comes along. And if Diabell doesn't or decommits and goes somewhere else, I think that's a name to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And I think that's fair. Another one that, like, this is a weird one, but Adrian Peterson's kid is a 2026 quarterback. He's a more of a mobile quarterback. But he's another one in state that doesn't have a ton of offers. He may be a guy that you bring in to build the room while you kind of shore things up. But that's just another name that's on the 2026 list. I was like, I don't know, maybe throw that out there and see what happens.
I saw him on there. I did not know that it was Adrian Peterson's son. That's pretty funny. I know he's like the 17th ranked quarterback on 247. Yeah, he's more of a mobile guy, but he is long and lengthy. So he could definitely put on some weight too.
He's got a frame that could build to what Sark likes. And even as a runner, he's put up, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 yards in 2 seasons. Like he's not a bad passer. Like 6,000 passing yards in a couple seasons is pretty solid.
Yeah, so that's interesting because I almost wrote him down. The other one for me is Troy Hoon. This is a guy we were actually deciding who do we want more, Diabell or Troy Hoon. We went with Diabell, and Troy Hoon then went to Penn State. But you could jump back on that train. This is a guy that did want to go to Texas, but we chose to pursue Diabell more. So it's always weird about that because this guy, listen, all these guys have egos to some point, and maybe he's just like, you know what, you pass over me. Why would I want to come there? So I could see that happening, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just doesn't care and he really likes Texas. But I think you could see them jump back on that train if Diabell does go somewhere else.
Yeah, and there is again, we are in February of 2026, like 2025. We have 10 months until these guys
Yeah.
are going to commit. And again, like you said earlier, and like Sark has said multiple times, like sweating recruiting rankings, sweating recruiting in February is like a rocking chair, right? It's going to give you something to do, but you're not going anywhere. Like just chill. Like it's gonna play itself out. I have not been disappointed with the recruiting class under Steve Sarkisian. Texas is going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out what we're trying to build.